You're listening to Surely a Mystery, straight from Long Beach Island, New Jersey. We're here to share with you all the spooky, scary, and mind-bending enigmas that make up the Jersey Shore. I'm your living host, Anna, here with some mystery, history, and a few tips to proper ghost hunting. So why don't we get started? Why are hotels so intriguing to people? I mean, think about it. When you stay at a hotel, especially if it's nowhere near your home, you can literally be anyone that you want. Have you ever seen those Keegan-Michael Kay commercials for Choice Hotel? Well, it's even in the hotel chain's name, Choice. You can choose to be whomever you want. You can even do illicit things in a hotel room, from drugs, sex, and unfortunately, a popular one is suicide in a hotel. There are many reports of people, especially in the 1950s, who did not want their home or family to have to deal with finding their bodies, so they'd check in a hotel. In the past several years, there are also some famous celebrity deaths that had to do with hotel rooms. Hotels are also places where you can be pampered. Fresh towels and bed linens that you obviously don't have to wash. I know some of you are saying that it depends on the quality of the hotel. Bed bugs is a real problem. Before the Paris Olympics, the government encouraged inspection of hotels so that bed bugs could be exterminated before it became literally an international problem. Well, back to the bonuses. Did I mention room service? Okay, that's my favorite. But maybe not like Vegas or New York City, but at least breakfast, maybe an early dinner. You've got cable TV. Sometimes they even give you free movie channels. I like the nice hot shower because you don't have to worry about the water bill or whether or not the hot water will literally run out on you. Maybe even those fancy water heads for like rain or massage. But what if your hotel came with an added bonus? A ghost. I have a feeling that most of my loyal listeners will be like, yep, you got it. Where do I book it? There are some who will say, as long as it's not in my room or it doesn't get me up in the middle of the night. In this episode, I'm going to cover only a few of the haunted New Jersey inns. Their paranormal experiences and investigations will vary in both their depth and the evidence. Some you can book all year round, like the Surf City Hotel, just blocks from where I live, but it's only during the summer season. Trust me, it always seems to be booked, especially because Wally's is right down the street to eat. There's a mini golf across the street and a surf shop that provides lessons nearby. It's the perfect spot. But let's start with a hotel with little documentation, but strange events for sure. The Dunellen Hotel. It was built in 1869. Originally, it started life as a private home, but it was remodeled in 1925 with some added hotel space and a restaurant. And it was known as the Charlotte Inn, but only 4 years later, the name changed to the Dunellen Hotel. Now, famously, Clark Gable stayed there, though reports say he stopped by, whatever that means. Maybe he just had a meal or wanted to use the facilities before heading to the shore. Others say that there was also an episode of The Honeymooners that was inspired by the hotel. The bonus is that there's a basement bar. It's called the Rathskeller, which is a German word meaning cellar of a town hall, which is used as a beer hall. So the sense of community and that this bar is a gathering place of sorts is felt by all in the local area. Now, remember, the Prohibition was from about 1920 to 1933. So I'm sure that the bar was placed where it was for a reason. It was a great hiding place for those drinking. Prohibition was largely unsuccessful. It led to widespread illegal production and sale of alcohol, which we know as bootlegging. Just so you know, the Kennedys, like JFK's family, his grandfather was a huge bootlegger who made a tremendous amount of money from it. It led to the rise of organized crime, and ultimately the 21st Amendment repealed it. In 1923, there was a fire which began around 12:45 a.m. and was confined to the walls of the restaurant. No one was hurt, and the whole episode was literally done and cleaned up by 4:15 a.m. The whole community rallied around the historic hotel and bar, and eventually it was reopened. The ghostly images happen around the bar, mostly with a Victoria woman and a boy who are often seen there. People will take photos of the hallways while going to their rooms and catch wispy, shadowy figures in the middle of the hall. Some other notable photos are of a small child peeking their head around a corner. Most of the documentation has been of cold spots or these photographic anomalies. There's no real moans or groans, just the hint of the lives of the ordinary people who stayed there. For my next in, I'm going to travel south to Absecon, New Jersey, and the Dr. Jonathan Pitney House, which is now operated as a bed and breakfast. Originally, the father of Atlantic City built the house around 1820. The original house kind of started in 1799 and expanded over the years between 1820 and 1848, and got more extravagant as he began to build a railroad into Atlantic City. Now, he died in 1869, and he never really lived or knew how grand the house would become. And it was finally restored in 2015. Knowing that friends and families would need a place to stay, he even built a cottage. Now, this cottage seems to have a ghost who loves to play the flute. It'll radiate in the night air in a soft way, which almost seems mournful or lost. Carolyn's room, as it's called, has a sound of music all the time. Every once in a while, you can hear the flute or fife-like music, and sometimes even bells being played. Now, those bells, I'm thinking, are actually English handbells that are heard throughout the house. I played English handbells in high school, and they were popular during the 1800s and early 1900s. All of these musical noises seem to emanate from the cottage. So was it actually used like as a music room? Carolyn's room was more than just Carolyn having seen in it. There seems to be a man with a long, dark-colored coat standing near the fireplace. What was the room used for in the past? Was it a men's lounge or a smoke room? Was it the bedroom for Pitney and his wife? Well, in fact, it was the room where Pitney died. He spent his last moments in that room. And I am sure that there are many times when he came in and just wanted to get warm and go to bed. In the old days, men often wore what is called a dressing gown. In fact, Drew Barrymore and I met because my father was friends with her grandfather and was gifted one of his dressing gowns in the 1950s. They were often long and really looked like a coat, and they were that heavy. So more than likely, it was Pitney, or Pitney's ghost, that people are seeing in a dressing gown. Women had them too, but they weren't as sturdy or as warm as men's. They were more frilly, and oftentimes they didn't even have any arms. They were just to cover the particulars, as it said. Now, another room, Victoria's room, is a little different. There'll be a light that sometimes comes out of the dresser drawers. I'm thinking pixie, something like that. Is it a ghost looking at the belongings or looking for something they lost? Now, if the dresser is original, I'm going to say that they're still looking for something of their belongings. The most clear evidence is that Pitney had a communication speaker system throughout the whole house. He liked to interrupt people who might be talking or listening to music. I'm I'm not sure if he wanted to be the center of attention or he just liked to be in control. Because of his desire to be the center of things, many electronic devices will either pick up weird noises, like a white noise static, the power will go off suddenly without warning, or they just plain won't work right. The speaker system still works, so investigators have noted oftentimes indistinct human words being said, a voice saying something quietly and almost sounding unearthly. Now, a cleaning lady used to get annoyed because she would put her music on while she did her housekeeping, and of course, the sound would suddenly go to static. Or she would hear a man's voice saying something like, "Don't do that. Don't listen to that," or "quiet." Now, the housekeepers will either tend to clean in silence, or they'll try earbuds and hope that the ghost really doesn't understand what they are. I mean, to a Victorian ghost, our earbuds probably look like ear plugs in their time. The most famous of the paranormal reporting is that a woman was taking down the bedding in a basket to the laundry area. She was on the main stairway and she lost her footing. Now, this would have either been extremely tragic or just a really bad fall with a long stay in the hospital. Broken necks were actually a common occurrence in Victorian times. Many would lose their footing on the stairs because of the carpet, which might have come loose. Now, I lived in a Victorian house which literally had little metal rods that were under the lip of the stair to hold the carpet in place. There were many historic houses that have had those or had carpet tacks. These tacks were on the sides of the stair and they'd hold the carpet in place. It made it hard for cleaning, but it saved lives for sure. But this woman didn't tumble and certainly didn't die. She was actually floated or lifted by the ghosts of the hotel and safely set down at the bottom of the stairs. This is not the first story that I've heard of benevolent ghosts doing something like this. I mean, think about it. He was a doctor, after all, and it seems like a kind-hearted man in general, so he would definitely want to save her. Lastly, this house has slamming doors. I get that. You leave a door open, but you let out the warm or cool air, so close your doors. I used to get in so much trouble when I was a child in one house. It was quite large, so we would close off some of the doors to prevent a draft. And if you left a door open, the draft would upset the heat balance of the house. Now also, in some Victorian houses, women's rooms were always supposed to be closed. Children's rooms would remain open, and men's rooms were mostly kept closed. But it was more a matter of privacy. Open doors meant that you could either enter if you were a guest. Closed doors meant literally not for public use. Now, the last two of our ghostly inns and hotels, I want to, of course, cover the Surf City Hotel. I have covered it in the past when I did an episode about the Powhatan shipwreck in 1854. But I figured I'd cover it again for those of you who might have missed it. Today, it's a big blue and white building. It has a liquor store at one end and a restaurant facing the main street, which is Long Beach Boulevard. It has the old part on the left side, a more hotel or motel-like structure, which was a late addition. It's open during the season, usually until Chowderfest in the fall. Opening really depends on the weather and, frankly, when the island itself is completely open. Usually it's Memorial Day and sometimes earlier in the month of May. The highlights are that when the corpses of the Powhatan were taken from the shore, they literally were placed in the hotel, in front of it, or near it. Edward Jennings, the owner of the Health Mansion, as it was called, just happened to have enough money to pay for all of their burials. Why? Not because he was making a ton at the hotel, but because he literally stole all the dead people's worldly possessions. He even knew that these men were coming from Europe, primarily from Germany, and they had money belts. My dad even had one. You could fold your money up and put in a zippered compartment, which ran along the whole belt, and then turn it around and wear it. No one would be the wiser that you had money. Lots of money in that day. Now, Jennings did get what he deserved, in more ways than one. Yes, he did die, actually in a bar fight in San Francisco, where he escaped after everyone in the local area figured out the horrible things that he did. So I'm conflicted. He did use some of the money to bury them. Most had no families, so what was going to happen to the money anyway? Yes, he was in charge of holding the money and distributing it, but still, I'm going to say it probably would have gone to waste. But lastly, the best part was he went mad. Yes, mad. Paranormal revenge, according to many. Oftentimes, after the shipwreck, he would be seen by his employees arguing with unseen people or pacing aimlessly like he was trying to avoid something or someone. He was literally being paranormally stalked because of what he did. Now, I would be mad too. If I died and was stuck there, I would totally want revenge on him. People lately have talked about hearing people in the hallways or outside their doors at weird hours in the night and day. Shoes will be moved around in their rooms. And if you go to the beach, you will often see a young man with a missing arm from the Civil War. It is believed that it was either a local or a young man whose family had once weekend there, and he decided to spend the rest of his life here on the island as a ghost. Now, the lights will flicker on and off, and that's usually in the winter when there's no one around. I've driven by and seen the lights on and thought, wow, I didn't know they were open. Well, they aren't. They are just literally haunted. Some people will see women walking on the beach hand in hand like sisters in kind of period clothing. When they get closer or turn back for a better look, these ladies are gone. Several reports talk about people walking behind them from the beach. So we went to the beach late at night before we were going to check out the next day. And there were these men walking behind us. They were far enough behind us that I couldn't really get a good look, but close enough that, I was a bit nervous. They weren't talking, they were just walking. Finally, I took my phone like I was going to take a selfie, but these guys didn't show up in my camera. I don't know, maybe they were vampires or ghosts or ghouls or something, said one vacationer. The last inn is known and investigated by many, the Old Canal Inn. It is young compared to the others, being established in 1934 after Prohibition as JoJo's Tavern. Then it changed the name in 1948 when it was bought by the Skorupski family. Sorry if I mutilated your name. The most shocking is the infamous death chair. Yes, it has a warning sign as a precautionary measure if you choose to sit in the death seat. So, how did it get its name? Well, apparently, two men were fighting at length over that particular seat. It was a matter of pride. But both men died within 10 days of fighting, and they both died of a heart attack. Now, in 1964, long after this original tale had happened, two different men sat on the chair to dispel the rumor, but they too died within 3 days of sitting in the chair, and yes, they each died of heart attacks officially. Now, of course, the bar had to name a dish after the chair. The Death Seat Burger Platter. It's a beer-battered, deep-fried burger with jalapenos, mashed potatoes, and nacho cheddar cheese sauce. That's a real heart attack-inducing meal. Like another of her haunted locations, it too had a fire in 2014 in the kitchen. Now, the owners have told tales about hearing pots and pans moving without anyone being there. The kitchen and the bar will often be occupied by bartenders and chefs who aren't real. These full-bodied apparitions appear and then disappear often. But the basement is the best part of the whole building, being where many investigators consider a vortex of energy. Light bulbs will burst for no reason, either because of a swirling energy or just basically to disrupt the light. They want it to be dark there. Well, it is a local watering hole with football games and all kinds of baseball watching parties. But when the lights go out or early in the day, the spooks use that energy to appear. One patron said, "I had a beer, I went to the bathroom, and then my beer was clear down the rail. I was like, hey, why did you move my beer?" The bartender looked at me like, it wasn't me, it was the ghost. Now, the seats near the death seat were always cold. And you're hot, you sit down in them, and suddenly you're super cold. It's almost freezing. It's like the death seat is literally powering up, sucking the energy from you. My friend and I came to the bar just to see the seat, not sit in it. I'm not crazy. We sat close. Just looking at it was weird. It was like you thought you saw somebody sitting in the chair, said one patron. It's hard to know if the original two men are paranormally guarding the seat, still making sure that no one but one of them gets to sit in the seat. You sit there, we kill you. We have time for one more haunted hotel, the Grenville Hotel. It was built around 1890 by Wyckoff Applegate. He and his wife, Susan, lived there with their children, but unfortunately all their children died young. When Applegate passed in 1921, it was sold to Nellie Georgette, who named it the Georgette until 1945, when the Grenville Group bought it upon her death. The Spurgott family then bought it in 1956, and it changed hands again in 1987. But although Joseph Melza loved it and renovated it, he sold it in 2003 to Harry Tapelos. There are 29 rooms with 5 suites, completely modern amenities, and has a 4-star restaurant. And ever since the 1950s renovations, the ghost stories began. Now, I am suspicious. Why every 20 years or so, literally every 20 years or so, it sells. Do the owners get scared? What happens? The hotel's hotspots are the dining room, 3rd floor, and front deck. Many guests, like those at the Surf City Hotel, will hear footsteps and voices when there is obviously no one there. For example, guests will be walking, and it sounds like there are people walking ahead of them. There's no one there. The children most definitely haunt the hotel because you will see and hear children playing. Sometimes they will appear only as a mist, and other times you can see actual children when there are no children staying at the hotel. Of course, the 3rd floor, you're going to see dressed people in elegant 19th century clothing. I was like, cool. The hotel has reenactors dressed in clothes, said one guest. Then I told the front desk how neat it was, and they were like, we don't do things like that. You saw one of our ghosts. To make things even cooler, in 2018, the hotel was actually struck by lightning during a storm. It was like the ghosts needed an extra charge. There have been many deaths of both former owners and the original family members. The belief is that many of these owners love the hotel or house so much that they decided to continue to stay there to take care of it. If you want to check in or eat there, please do. You might catch a glimpse of Applegate's children playing in the lobby. So enjoy the food and the unseen company. According to current owners, they're super friendly ghosts and not harmful. Inns are usually a way stop for travelers, but in the instances that I've told you about, They have some long-term residents. Many New Jersey haunts started originally as homes or private residences before they became public. So there are all the emotions of the normal family life. And then in later years, you can add the emotions of all the travelers. So these are places to get both sides of the same paranormal coin. There are many more New Jersey haunted inns to talk about in another episode, probably next season. Remember, I'm always open to suggestions. It doesn't always have to be completely supernatural. For example, right now I'm working on a missing episode and another unsolved murders episode for next season. So send me an email or fill out the form on our website. This has, as always, been Anna, your living host from the island of Long Beach in New Jersey. Remember to keep listening and clicking on those 5-star reviews for this podcast. Keep looking around you and seeing the beauty in all things and wishing and hoping for better things for all of us. This has been Surely a Mystery. Until next time.